Hello and welcome back to the Morning Bulletin here on the Blood Red channel. I'm your host Edward Kay and I'm joined today by David Lynch and we're going to be going over all the latest Liverpool FC news. And today we're going to be starting by going over the news that Fabio Carvalho, Lynchy, has decided to looking like he's going to abandon Portugal. He's left their under-21 setup. They released a statement yesterday, the Portuguese FA, saying obviously he's left, didn't really give any reasons, but obviously he has played in the England youth setup before. Do you think this could be maybe paving a way for a return?
Yeah, it certainly looks like it. It's hard to think of another reason why he would suddenly fall away from the Portuguese setup, and he clearly has one eye on getting back in the England things. And I think it's interesting that he's lived in England for a long time now, hasn't he? And now he's at an English club now. He's been at an English club for a long time, and you just wonder whether the pull of all that and being based more locally, even though it's only Portugal, it's only across the water, it's not too far, but whether he just feels more that pull of playing for England more than playing for Portugal. You have a lot of these situations, don't you, where players are eligible to represent multiple nations, and I imagine that's a really difficult choice to make. But like I say, he's been in England for a long time. He'd been at Fulham for quite a while, and he's now at Liverpool, and he's with his mate Harvey Elliott, who I've spoken to recently about wanting to play for England. Maybe that's another part of the draw for him. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what England do about it. They'll, he's been involved in their setup before, but I think he'll have one eye on. Eventually, he's in the Liverpool senior team now at a very young age. He'll be thinking, can he make that step up to England at senior level? And I think there will be opportunities to do that really after the World Cup as well. I think, this side that Gareth Southgate's put together, a lot of these players have been around that setup for a long time. And I think that no matter what happens in this next World Cup, there's probably going to be a bit of a change in the guard, could even be a change in the manager after this one. And maybe it'll be chances for people like Harvey Elliott, like maybe Fabio Carvalho, if he does decide he wants to go down the England route. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, it seems like a big call for him to make, and one he'll have to back up by, hopefully playing well for England, playing well for Liverpool, and then maybe getting his call up to England.
Yeah, certainly an interesting one. And usually when you see sort of players, use the word defecting maybe, obviously leaving one country and going to another, usually quite often it's because there's maybe a bit of a gulf in class. But one way or the other, they're moving to try and maybe a better chance of getting in the squad, or moving because they think it's a far better team and they'll still get in. I'm thinking of like Declan Rice left Ireland for England, didn't he? I think Jack Grealish did the same.
Yeah.
But obviously Portugal and England, there's obviously not too much difference there. You probably similar hopes for this World Cup coming up. A lot of attacking players in there. Do you think he's got necessarily a better chance of getting into the England team than the Portugal one?
No, that's why it's sort of difficult to understand, and I suppose that's why I'm trying to think whether the sort of the geographical element of being based at Liverpool and then linking up with England seems easier, or whether it's just he's been in England for such a long time now that just feels more like the country he should be representing. And it's odd because there were quotes flying about from him not very long ago at all about the idea that he saw Portugal as when he linked up with the youth international teams there. And went back to Portugal, it always felt like home to him. But obviously there's been a change there, and it's not as straightforward as to say that England have got a better chance of winning trophies or anything like that. It's clearly just something he feels he wants to do, and it's not again, it's not even like England ever as an international team have a greater profile than Portugal either. I mean, Portugal at the moment, going to a World Cup with Cristiano Ronaldo in the team, for goodness sake, that it doesn't really get much bigger than that at the moment. So yeah, a difficult one and a personal decision, clearly, that it's hard to sort of speculate over the reasons behind, but it's he's got to knuckle down now and see if he can get into that England setup, I suppose.
Yeah, do you think maybe him seeing England now as more of a home? Obviously, I think he came over when he was around 12 or 13 to the Fulham setup. So he has been in England for a while now. Obviously, I mean, he sounds like a Londoner, so I couldn't believe he was from Portugal the first time I heard him speak. But do you think it's a good sign of how well he's sort of, obviously he bedded in and became homegrown at Fulham, but do you think it's a good sign of how well he's bedded in with the Liverpool squad, obviously getting on with his English compatriots there?
Yeah, that could be a factor. And like I say, I think that maybe the Harvey Elliott part of it could have had an influence, because I know they're close friends. They were at Fulham, and obviously they're back together at Liverpool, and are good friends there. So maybe that's the idea, that he wants to stay with his mate at international level, and it's always been an opportunity for him to do that. And to be honest, I suppose it's not completely out of the blue, is it? Because he has represented England before at youth level, so it is an opportunity for him to do that again. And I think, yeah, it's obviously shows that something about the fact that he's at Liverpool as well, and he knows he's at an English club, and maybe thinks, I'm going to be at Liverpool for a long time, hopefully. And I think every Liverpool fan would hope that would be the case, because he's shown immense promise already. Maybe that is part of it, yeah, that he's going to be based in England for a long time, and therefore to represent the English national team, it seems like it makes more sense to him.
Yeah, someone in the comments there saying he needs a couple of years to grow to catch up with Harvey and needs to get a bit thicker. I think I definitely agree with that. He has looked a bit lightweight in some respects in certain games, But do you think maybe him, like I say again, bedding into a more English setup? Obviously, it's the Premier League, known for being one of the tougher leagues. Do you think it's just a matter of time before he does make that physical leap?
Yeah, and to be honest, I think you could say the same for Harvey Elliott. Anyway, I think Harvey is sort of masking that just through sheer quality at times. He's not the biggest of players, and got a bit of work to do in that regard. But his quality on the ball is so immense that's really helpful. And I think for Fabio Carvalho, I think making that step up to Liverpool, he's done it later than Harvey Elliott did, so he's got a little bit more time. He needs to adapt and show himself. But I think you've got to say that the early signs are incredibly promising in terms of what he can do on the pitch. He's looked so lively at times, and he's obviously got that goal scoring knack as well. I think that one against Newcastle was a really key moment for him. So it's just really exciting to see what he becomes. But yeah, I agree. There is obviously some physical development there, and the same could go for any player of that age. But I think the talent that he's got is really obvious, and I don't think we'll have to wait too long until he's around the squad as even more influential, because he's just that step behind a key player, isn't he? He's a player you bring on late in games. He's a player who'll come in to sort of in games where you can rotate. It's not a huge step to then becoming a key man, and to be doing what he's doing at the moment at such a young age. These squad players are usually at a club like Liverpool. They're usually very, very experienced players, even if they're not of the level of your first teamers. So for him to be where he is at the moment is pretty incredible, really. And I think it's really exciting that you'll see that development in real time, and it shouldn't take too long. And for a fact that, as well as the physical side, but the development on the football side, he's got a manager like Jurgen Klopp who is perfect at overseeing that sort of thing. So it's exciting for supporters, I think.
Yeah, exciting times, hopefully still to come. But we'll move on now to another Liverpool youngster, obviously one who's made more of an impact during his time at the club. Caoimhin Kelleher has been told by compatriot Shay Given that he needs to move on and maybe find a transfer or a loan away from the club, as I think he said he's number one, not number two, which, I completely agree with. I'm not sure about him leaving Liverpool. What about you, Lynchy?
Yeah, if you look at it from a purely selfish perspective, I wrote it after the last game where he had such an impact, penalty hero again, that Liverpool have got to think of this as how much longer can we realistically keep hold of him, because Jurgen Klopp has said before he's arguably the best number two in the country, and you look at his performance against Derby and you think he's probably about right, really. And when you've got a number two of that quality, the only question is how much longer can you keep them, and whether another club will come in and think that they're worthy of being a number one. And I think Kelleher is, he's not a kid now, so he's probably ready to make that step pretty soon. And I would think, again, this is the way I see it, and I think Liverpool will struggle to get more than just this season out of him now before he desires to sort of move on and try something new. Because to be honest, I thought the break might come over the summer, really. I thought I was surprised that it didn't, really, because having played such a big role in that League Cup win, getting a trophy on board, that seemed like a really good time to sort of break and go out alone as a number one. But it didn't happen. Liverpool, fortunately, have an absolutely incredible number two in there for the rest of this season. But I think at the end of this one, I think Shay Given is probably right that Kelleher probably needs to get out there and play senior football more regularly, because he's good enough to do that. And I think he'd be a great asset for any club, particularly any club that plays football in Liverpool in the way that Liverpool do, in terms of, needs a goalkeeper that's actually comfortable on it, And he's got that as well as all the shot stopping ability, and he's incredible at penalties as well. So yeah, I think for his personal development, he really does need to consider making a move at the end of this season.
Yeah, there does seem to be a bit of an air of inevitability about it because, I mean, obviously, like you say, Klopp says he's probably the best number 2 around, but I mean, for my money, Liverpool do have the best number 1 in the world. I don't think there's can be much debate about that. Certainly this season, he's been unbelievable, kept us in games, and the fact is, no matter how well Kelleher's doing, unless something miraculous happens, he is not going to usurp Alisson as number 1, is he?
That's it, and I think Alisson is still of an age where he's going to be playing at this level for a long time yet. It's not looking like he's going to be looking to move on or certainly not even getting close to retirement. So that path is so clearly blocked. And I think we've seen a similar thing in other positions recently. I look at Nico Williams doing really well at Nottingham Forest, and you could debate whether he was quite the level of Liverpool or not. But he's certainly a very competent Premier League worthy right back. But he just knew he wasn't going to get the opportunities at Liverpool. They were just never going to come because Trent Alexander's there. He's of a certain age where he's just going to lock down that position for so many years. And yeah, it doesn't look like he's ever going to move on from Liverpool either. So, these young players coming through, they know they're good enough and they have difficult decisions to make then. And I think that time is coming now for Kelleher where he's just got to appreciate that, his best chance of playing regular football is elsewhere. But, if he does leave, talk about leaving with your head held high in terms of, to have won a trophy at Liverpool and been a massive part of it, despite the fact that he was number 2, just shows you how good he is. And I think, yeah, he can find a club where he can, really show his quality on a weekly basis, and that would be really good for him because and he deserves that opportunity to do that. And I know for a fact that Liverpool won't stand in his way either. I know some clubs are, kind of hard on younger players in that way, and will sort of try and keep hold of them for as long as it's good for them, rather than thinking of the players' future. And Liverpool aren't really like that. They will, if an opportunity to move on that is good for him comes in, they will let him go.
Yeah, and I think if he does go, he'll obviously go with the well wishes from everyone at the club and the fans and some very fond memories. But that is all we've got time for on the Morning Bulletin today. So from myself and from Lynchy, it's goodbye for now.